Let's face it, not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone wants to have their own business or have a side hustle or a side job. Sometimes in this world that we're living in today, it feels like the only way that you can have true happiness when you're working a corporate job is by leaving it and starting up your own thing. But let's be honest, that might not actually be part of your life plan, and that's okay. I love today's episode because it's all about how to find fulfillment in your job where you are right now, even if it's a job you don't love. My guest this week is Carson Tate, and you're going to absolutely love this conversation with her. Carson is a consultant and an executive coach to executive at Fortune 500 companies. She's the author of Work Simply, Embracing the Power of Your Personal Productivity Style, and Own It, Love It, Make It Work, How to Make Any Job Your Dream Job. And her views have also been included in top-tier business media. Carson is also the creator of the Productivity Style Assessment, a professional tool featured in Harvard Business Review's 2017 Guide to Being More Productive. You're absolutely going to love this conversation with Carson because we talked about the Sunday scaries, which I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with, why some people can work a job that they don't love and other people can't, specific things you need to do to combat your Sunday scaries, 3 tips to reframe our brain's negativity bias, and all about Carson's new book, Own It, Love It, Make It Work. I hope you're excited for this conversation. I know you're going to love it. Let's dive in. Carson, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here with all of us today.
I'm so excited to be here.
We're going to have such a great conversation. I want to kick this off by asking you, what does happiness mean to you?
To me, happiness is a fleeting emotion. So I think more about fulfillment and engagement in life, that richness, that joy, that in the moment, that vitality. It's like living life in full, beautiful color.
I love that. Now, I feel like that's not always a reality for most people. A lot of people don't really get to access that point. And I think it's because we do a lot of things in our lives that we should. And I think it's because we don't really prioritize what are those things that make us truly happy. So we're going to talk a little bit today about more of the ideas around Sunday scaries. And I want to focus a lot on like your job and working and fulfillment and all of those pieces because you spend so many hours at a place every day. You might as well make it, right?
For a third of our waking life at work. So I believe we really should make it so that it is joyful and engaging and there are moments of happiness. I think that's so important.
I agree with you. Let's get into the Sunday scaries and why we have them.
We do. So the Sunday night scaries, why do we have them? Let's talk about what they are first. It is that moment where you realize the weekend is over and Monday is coming and there is nothing you can do about it. Maybe it's that pit of dread in your stomach gets tight, or you just get grumpy or quiet because you're thinking about going back to work. And so many of us experience this because work is not a place of engagement, fulfillment, joy. Maybe you don't have a great friend. Maybe you don't enjoy your work, or maybe you just have a jerk as a boss.
Ain't that the truth? I've been there in all of those. Okay, so with that in mind then, you've been doing this work for a while. I mean, like you've been going into understanding all of this and finding that joy and that fulfillment in work. We are going to get into all of that. So now understanding like what the Sunday scaries are, why do you think that some people can go to a job that might be really unfulfilling and not get those Sunday scaries, whereas other people might?
I think some people can go to a job and not have the Sunday night scaries, and others do because of the way some people look at work. So there are 3 different ways we can look at work. We can look at it as a paycheck. So some folks go and it's in service of the other things they do in their life, supporting their family. Maybe they're putting children through school. It enables them to volunteer or have a lifestyle. And that in and of itself, the fulfillment is fueled outside of work, but the work as the paycheck is an enabler. Some people have Sunday night scaries because work is about success. It's climbing the corporate ladder, or getting a new promotion, or winning a new deal. And so that speaks to them and connects to them. And for other folks, it's a calling. So it is so connected to their values, their heart space, meaning and purpose in their life is defined through work. So they don't have it.
Mm.
When folks haven't really clarified the place of work in their life, that's when I think we start to have more of the Sunday night scaries and are not as fulfilled at work.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's true, because I guess then some people would just sort of push it to the back burner and understand the purpose of why they're doing this is like, for something different than their own personal fulfillment or their own personal joy, right? Okay, so with that thought in mind, how do we start? So we know what it is, we know why it happens. How do we start to combat that? How do we start to maybe change that like narrative or perspective, especially when we can't leave our jobs? Like, let's say we have to stay there, right?
We do. And I think so often we need to start with where we are versus looking at the escape hatch, Simona, because a lot of us can't escape our jobs. And I am a very strong believer. We see this all the time with our executive coaching clients. Wherever you go, there you are. And the grass is greenest where it's watered. So if you aren't engaged and fulfilled in your current job, you are likely going to find similar conditions even in a new job, because to change the pit, the Sunday night scaries, and to find more fulfillment starts with you.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to know what is it that brings you joy and brings you fulfillment and engagement, and stop outsourcing that to your boss, your manager, your team. This is about ownership and you taking ownership for it.
I love the way that you've positioned that. And I was thinking about this too, because as you were saying that, like, of course, as you go from one job to another job, you're right. Like, you will absolutely have all of those different similarities and those things that will continue to pop up for you, because it's almost like, and I don't know if this is the correct way of saying this, but it's almost as if like, whatever that trigger is for you, it's something that needs to heal on the inside,
I absolutely know. So let's say, for example, you are not getting the recognition that you want at work, maybe from your team members or your boss. If you don't know how you want to be recognized and acknowledged for your contributions, and you leave your job and you go to a new one, that's going to be there as well. You might have a manager that thinks just saying thank you really is a way that you feel affirmed and valued. Whereas I might be someone like, I want my name in lights. I want my name on the wall. I want the big email to the whole team. That's how I feel seen and valued and heard. You can't help your manager or your team member know how to recognize you. It won't change. You will continue to be in that place of that void of not feeling seen and valued.
That's really important. And so then, through that lens and on that note, what are some specific things maybe that you would recommend to your clients or people that you speak to about this? Some things that people can do to start to find that inner fulfillment and to really like combat and get over those Sunday scaries.
So the first thing that we have to do to combat the Sunday night scaries is overcome our brain's negativity bias. So I don't know if this has ever happened to you, Simona. At the end of your work day, you tell your friend or your partner, or I sometimes tell my dog, everything that went wrong that day. Oh my gosh, my coffee order was wrong. My Zoom was acting up. I had a client. And we just go through this litany. Our brain is hardwired to scan our environments for threats. So this is the negativity bias. It's looking for things that are wrong because this is how we survived thousands of years ago. Well, we don't need to constantly be scanning for survival. And so we have to overcome our brain's negativity bias. So you can do this in 3 ways. We have to train your brain. So it's a little bit like a muscle. So these are 3 ways you can overcome and train your brain. One is to do a practice called 2 roses and a thorn. So at the end of the workday, you share with your friend, colleague, partner, whomever, 2 great things. You can tell them the icky thing that happened. We have to start with the anchor of the 2 good things. The next thing that I did with a client on their commute home. I challenged him, and you can do this at every stoplight or at every train stop. You think about one positive thing from your workday. We're not going to ruminate on every negative thing, but the stoplight or the train stop is the trigger. One great thing. And then the third thing that you can do is, with a friend, get in the habit of putting notes in a jar of one great thing. You put it in a jar and you start to build this jar of positive experiences. So when you feel yourself stuck in the vortex of negative work experiences, we can go to the jar. Hey, you know what? 2 days ago, I really did have a great day at work.
Those are really, really great tips. I like that a lot, because you're not allowing yourself to spiral down that negative self-talk, that negative mindset. And, also, I have to share this with you. So I used to complain a lot about work. I used to be in a couple jobs that were not fulfilling. It was a struggle, and I knew why I was there. Like, I knew I was just there to, essentially get the paycheck while I was building my business. Like, there was a lot of reasons why I was there. None of them were for self-fulfillment or because I actually enjoyed it. But I remember once I was complaining about my job, my day, whatever it was. And my brother, he's 6 years younger than me. So I think he must have been like 21 or something like that at the time, or 20. And he looks at me, he goes, Simona, nobody cares about your job. And I was like,
Sure, nobody cares about your job.
Nobody cares. And I was like, huh. And I was like, that's actually a really good point, though, because no one really does need to sit here and listen to me complain all day long about, X, Y, and Z and why I'm so unhappy in it. It's like, now my mindset is very, if you don't like it, you have to find a way to fix it or transform that thought around it, right? And so that's what I started doing from him after he sort of said that to me. I was like, okay, let me think about some of the positives that could come out of this instead, or the reasons why this is a good thing instead, because he is right. No one wants to listen to someone complain all day long.
We definitely don't want to listen to folks complain. And what you were doing is reframing it, because what I heard you say is you were in this job as you were building what you're doing now.
Yeah.
You were building your heart's desire. So this is in service. It was a paycheck enabling you to build and test and grow your business on the side. So you then could quit that job, which really was like the seed money. You could think about it that way. Wow, this business job that I have is seeding my future. It's seeding my dream. And that can help us get out of that vortex and avoid the Sunday night scaries.
I love that. That is super, super great. Okay, let's shift into a little bit about, because I know you talk a lot about relying on your own self to find that fulfillment. And I know we've talked a little bit about it so far, but maybe just diving into a little bit of how can people really rely on themselves, especially if it's someone who just doesn't even really know where to start.
So if you don't know where to start, I think a great place to start in fulfillment is to really get clear around your unique capabilities and strengths. What is the value that you bring to a business? You were hired for a very specific reason, because there is something that you bring and you do exceptionally well. And so how do we figure out what that is? So there are 3 ways we can do it. Notice for you to help them do. Where are they asking you to help them with this project? Or can you tell me how to do this? Or where are they complimenting you? That's usually a pretty good indicator of a signature strength. The next thing that you can do, and I love this one, is look at your calendar, your task list, and just scan. How are you spending your time? What are you doing? And this thumbs up or thumbs down. So go through your calendar. Podcast with Simona, thumbs up, energetic. I got to use some strengths. It was fun. Expense report, thumbs down. Didn't like that one. And you just do an audit to gain awareness, right? So often we kind of work through our lives in autopilot. And so we're looking at, where are you feeling successful? You can't not do it. You really want to grow and develop it. And you're good at it. You're really good at it. And then the third place you can start to look at, where are my strengths? Where am I really adding value? Let's look at performance reviews or feedback that you've received for customers or your manager or prior managers who've given you feedback, so that we can start to get really clear on your strengths. Because when you work from your strengths, you are more engaged, you're more in this flow state, you're happier, and you're adding so much value to the business that it puts you in a very unique and powerful position. because you're really generating results, we're now in a position that you can ask for more of what you want, to be engaged and fulfilled. Because this is the give and take. This is a mutually beneficial relationship where you're bringing and you're asking in return to co-create a win for everybody.
That's so good. I love that. Okay, let's go into a little bit about your new book. It's called Own It, Love It, Make It Work, right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the book, your inspiration for it, anything you want to share about the book. I'm so curious to hear your thoughts.
So the inspiration for the book, what I realized in our coaching clients and in training rooms around the country, after we had helped people be more productive, more efficient, communicate more effectively, lead more effectively, the next thing that came up was they liked my work. They weren't overwhelmed and busy anymore. They weren't in the swirl. So now they had time and space to look at it. They're like, I'm not engaged. I don't like it. What's the meaning? What's the purpose? And that's when I realized once the busyness and overwhelm and that noise of always on is dialed down, people do start to look at the why of work and what's there. And what I realized is that a lot of the resources that were available for our clients came at engagement and happiness and fulfillment from the organization's perspective. So if I'm a manager, what I need to do to engage my team, or if I'm a company, programs and perks that I need to put in place are important. So what about me? Where was I, the employee or the team member, in this engagement formula? It's not just about the organization or the manager. Where are you? What's your piece of the action? And so I wanted to write a book that would equip and empower you, the individual, to own your own engagement, and then have a set of tools to have a conversation with your manager, your company, to co-create a workplace, a culture, a job that absolutely delivers what they need to deliver in terms of revenue and results, but also allows you to be engaged and fulfilled.
I love that. And, as you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, so I've worked for a lot of companies that had really great employee engagement programs and stuff like that. And they weren't always the most effective. And even though the idea behind it was amazing, how they wanted to engage employees was great, there were so many amazing ideas thrown out there, but people just didn't care. And what I noticed the most is that it came down to money. People never felt like they were getting paid what they should have been, or felt like what they deserved. We all later on found out we were all getting paid probably 30 grand less than the industry standard. So that does go into it a little bit. But at the same time, I can't help but think that there must be an ownership piece on that end as well for you as the individual, that I guess in some sense of the word, it's not really the employer's job to build that engagement. Of course, you would want it from them, but at the end of the day, it's you, it's us, right?
Yes. At the end of the day, it is you. You own your engagement. And I don't want folks to outsource it to the business. It's about what do you need to be engaged and fulfilled, and then helping your manager and your organization know what that is, so that you can together create a culture, workplace, and a job that engages you. And I do want to address the money thing, because I think this is really important. As our clients, you need to take money off the table. So that to us is a basic. So we to be paying market rate. It sounds like you were not being paid the market rate, and there are excellent resources out there to assess what is the market rate, so that money is taken care of. And now we can look at some more intrinsic connections and intrinsic motivators around the work and the engagement piece.
That's really interesting. I really like that. I have to say, a lot of employers, just from my experience, I've worked at a lot of different places, not because I people will say oh, you're not supposed to job hop, you're not supposed to do all these different things. But I honestly feel like I learn the most in those moments, and I get bored quickly, and I'm like, all right, what's the next, what are we going to do next? I think back to these couple of different places that, I worked at before I went out on my own. And it's really interesting because I feel like the conversation around money, it's such an interesting one, but so many employers just are like, well, it's not in the budget. You know what I mean? And so I feel like a lot of that engagement, a lot of that fulfillment really does come down to feeling like you're being paid what you're worth, right? So like you're saying, like if you take it off the table, then you can start to actually see and assess, but it's almost like you need to like figure out what the main issue is first before you can dive into all of those different areas and figure it out.
So yes, you absolutely have got to figure it out. And you also need to be willing to trade in a different currency. So if there isn't more money in the budget, can you get creative? So could you ask for more paid days off, more time for play, rest, and recovery? Could you ask for them to pay for a course so you can develop in your skills? Can you ask them to help have a paid day to do some volunteer work? So sometimes we have to get creative, but in order to get creative and trade in a different currency, we have to come back to exactly what you said, which is, what do I value? And what is this really about? Money comes down to value and worth. And so we need to make sure that you are clear on your value and worth and open having that need met in potentially different creative ways.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And it's so right. It's like, it isn't the be all end all. I think at the end of the day, it does come down to like that piece of feeling valued where you are. But then if we're listening to this whole conversation we've just had, you have to be that own source of fulfillment. Like you can't rely, like you're saying, you can't rely on those external things to bring you that deep fulfillment that you're actually looking for.
You can't, because meaning is defined by you. Meaning is defined by how you make sense of what happens to you in the world. And so it is deeply personal. And so meaning and personal, it is personal and is a social. Meaning is personal and is constructed by you, which means you have to do that work first before you can engage in a conversation around meaning, purpose, value, and engagement.
That is so true. I love that you said that. Okay, I have to say, I've loved this conversation with you so much. And I have one question, and I want to ask you where people can find you. But before I do that, is there anything that you feel we haven't talked about or touched on today that people need to know?
One thing that I think I would reiterate is that you don't have to quit to find. It is possible in most places to figure out what you need to be engaged and to have conversations to start to create that win for you. And if you are looking for a new job, I would really encourage you to do the introspection and the work around what do you need to be fulfilled and engaged, and take that knowledge with you to the job boards, to the interview, and ask questions so that you can really discern, is this next thing really going to light me up? Is this going to bring the joy and the happiness that I want and deserve?
That is so good. And just to sort of reiterate, just in case, because it cut out just a second there, you said you don't need to quit your job to find fulfillment. And I just want to make sure that everyone heard that properly, because it's so important. Because a lot of the times we think, okay, I got to go find somewhere, I got to go somewhere new, I've got to go over here, I've got to do this, I'm not valued, I'm da-da-da, whatever. When the reality is sometimes all you just need is a really good hard look at what you actually really want out of your life. And then you make your decisions from that empowered place instead.
Absolutely.
I love it. Okay, Carson, where can our listeners find you so they can learn more about you?
So you can find more information about me on our website, workingsimply.com, LinkedIn, thecarsontate.com, and the book, Own It, Love It, Make It Work is available on all your favorite outlets.
Amazing. Okay, I have to ask you my one final question. This is a question I ask all my guests when they're on the show, and it's how can someone create a little more happiness in their day, every day, starting today?
Create a little more happiness every day. I would challenge you for 1 week to do 2 roses and a thorn. Just name 2 great things. Then you get to name your icky thing, but see if you can work that brain away from its negativity bias.
So good. Carson, thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into this conversation. I know that this is going to be so helpful for you all, especially if you're going to work in a job that you're not loving. So be sure to let both of us know that you're listening. Let us know what you love from this episode. Connect with us and just let us know what you learned. I love hearing from you, and I know Carson will also love hearing from you too. So wishing you a lovely week ahead, and remember that happiness happens when you're least expecting it.